There are just 2 weeks until the Sick Week event, the next drag and drive that we're going to compete in here at Finnegan's Garage, and I got some problems. Problem number one, I don't have an engine, and I figure a couple of weeks before Race Wars, Sick Week, an HED built Hemi might pull a premium, you know, I don't know, we'll have to ask Ted. The other thing I got a problem with is when I wheelie and I come down, my bump stops in my brand new front end don't actually stop anything. In fact, the cross member hits the racetrack and takes divots out of it. That's no good. So we're gonna fix that, and we're gonna reduce some of the front end travel we have that hopefully makes this thing a little more efficient when it leaves the line and goes down the track right here on Finnegan's Garage. Let's do it. We damaged the Hemi worse than I thought we had at Hot Rod Drag Week.
Oh, there's a lot of metal in here.
Sparkly metal or chunky metal?
Sparkly. She's gonna need a rebuild.
I see the waves in there. She's just gonna need some bearings, probably, and a little quick hone.
I think you can break one rocker arm adjuster.
I like adjuster. Let's go with that.
I think you can break one of those a week, but not two.
As soon as the event was over, we went home, and the very next week, Joe and I pulled the Hemi out of Blasphemi and thought it'll just be a simple rebuild. Rings, bearings, maybe hone it. Shouldn't have been that big of a deal. But it was. As it turns out, every rocker arm that broke a adjuster resulted in a bent valve. So we needed valves. What else? There's a list over. Come over here. Come over here. Come over here. Come over here. I have a list.
Just a simple refresh has turned into this.
Yeah, this is what it's turned into. We'll start at the bottom. Our clutch needed rebuilding. Towing the slipper clutch with the trailer on the highway meant we couldn't use 6th gear because at about 2,000 RPM, there wasn't enough centrifugal force on the counterweights with the adjustment we had in it, nor was there enough base pressure to keep the clutch from slipping on the highway. So every day at drag week, when we would get there, the clutch was glazed and we'd throw away at our first pass. Then we'd make a clutch adjustment, then the car would haul butt. And battling that, we still went 870 3 times in a row. And as I said, well, God, let's just go through it. Here's everything I've had to buy just this week. We've had to have the clutch rebuilt. The throttle body was sticking, so I sent that out and had that rebuilt. Hoses needed to be replaced because they were pretty old, fuel lines, that sort of thing. Our dry sump oil pump, the Moroso pump, we just put in last summer that I just, you know, those aren't cheap. As a result of the rocker arms breaking, the adjusters, and the pieces going into the oil system, it blew up the gears in the oil pump pretty good. And there was no time to get the oil pump rebuilt. I had to just buy another one. That sucked. Then the pistons got sent out to get recoated because we had to hone the block for all the metal that got in between the piston skirts and the sidewalls of the cylinders. So we sent the pistons out to get coated to build up the pistons a little bit to make sure we had the right piston to wall clearance. Well, while they were there, the piston coating guy from Line to Line Coatings noticed that the domes on my Hemi pistons weren't all the same. They're basically caving in. And they're not caving in because they're a crappy piston. Like, this is a really nice CP billet custom piston for this motor. They're caving in because of the heat that's going on in those combustion chambers. It's annealing the aluminum and making it soft, and then the domes are just doing this. Now, mechanically, it wasn't necessarily broken. You know, the pistons, they were pistoning. They were going up and down. They were making compression. They were making power. But how long were they going to last? I don't know. And the pistons, with the domes caving in, is all a result of that motor got tuned in California on a hub dyno. The tuner leaned it out just a little bit. We were running it at about 7.3 to 1 air-fuel ratio on E85 fuel. And on the dyno, on a 3-second pull, probably okay. But once you stick it in the car on a drag strip and you're running for 8.5, 9 seconds down a drag strip at wide open throttle, suddenly there's a lot more compression pressure, a lot more heat, a lot more time for that aluminum to go, you know what, I don't really want to be run at 7.2 or 7.3 to 1 air-fuel ratio on E85. And so that's what's causing those pistons to do that. So I had to hurry up and call CP and say, please, 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 I know it's late in the game and sick week is only 13 days away, but I need pistons. And they're not here yet, but they're on their way. They're somehow machining and shipping a complete new set of pistons to HED in 1 week. Thank you. As a result of the rocker arm adjusters breaking, we bent valves. The problem with bending valves is apparently my valves were an old design and no one's stocking my valve length for the exhaust side. We get intakes. The new valves are 50 thousandths longer, right? Well, we had already ordered a new set of Manton push rods for my old valve train. We don't know that they're going to be the right length now that we're overnighting a new set of valves that are 50 thousandths of an inch taller. So now we're about to overnight another set of push rods that are longer, hoping one of those two sets will be correct and we'll get the right geometry. I also used up the last of the spare rocker arms that I had for Blasphemi during drag week and broke 2 more. So we didn't have a complete set of rocker arms. Had to buy new rocker arms. So these are all the things that had to get replaced for a simple basic rebuild that I pulled the plug on day 4 of drag week because I didn't want to do any more damage. The money sucks, yes, but trying to get all of this stuff in short order with Thanksgiving and the Christmas and New Year's holiday happening when a lot of companies in America just, you know, they kind of take a week or 2, you know. They got lives, so getting all this stuff was not easy. So long story short, which is not short at all, we're gonna get all the parts conceivably on Friday. Pete Harrell and the guys at HED are gonna build the motor over the weekend. On Monday, I'm gonna grab it, come back here, slam it in the car, road test it Wednesday. On Friday, we leave for sick week.
We got this.
I'm not saying we're underprepared. We know our car really well, you know. It should be fine. But would we have liked to have driven it a little more, road tested a little more, you know? Because selfishly, after drag week, we made plans to upgrade the car and make it better, and we did. Our clutch got rebuilt with stiffer springs for our base adjustment. So hopefully we're not having the problem we were having before of slipping it while going down the highway towing a trailer. The throttle body got rebuilt, and I bought another throttle body. Come over here and look at this. I bought another throttle body that Nick Smithberg custom made an adapter for to go on the front of my intake manifold where the burst panel is, so that I could lock off the blower and not spin it while going down the road and take some of the heat away, and we would just drive on this. That was my plan, was to not wear out my supercharger driving on the street during sick week. Well, we don't have any time to test this, but more importantly, in order to put this on the front of the motor, it's a Hemi. The water neck is right here. The water pump is right here. I now have to reconfigure the entire cooling system, which means welding AN fittings to the motor plates, building AN lines, chopping off radiator hose mounts on our radiator, basically redoing a whole bunch of stuff that I now don't have time to do. So we're not doing that. We had a mystery misfire, definitely wiring related. Ripped the entire harness out of the front of the car, basically the engine harness, trying to find the smoking gun. Never really found it, but while we were there, I brought in my friend Rye Klemp. He and I have gone through the whole car front to back. He's building a new engine harness, everything from the ECU forward, in an effort to make the car more serviceable, because clearly the Hemi comes out often. And before, to get the Hemi out, all the wiring was like show car style. It ran through the motor, like the headlight wiring. It wasn't going down the frame rail, it was going through the motor. And so every time you had to take the motor out, it was, you know, like a process. So Rye is making us a new harness where it's configurable, it's all separate, it looks cool, it'll be stronger, it'll be sturdier, we won't have stuff rubbing on stuff, and if the motor has to come back out, which we know it will, we won't have to take the headlight wiring out of the car to get the motor out. So there's that. Oh, remember last summer when we eliminated 19 pounds of wiring and moved the battery from the back of the car to the front of the car and mounted on the core support? Well, I learned a lot about batteries as a result of that. And when you do a wheelie with the battery all the way at the front of the car, when you come down from that wheelie, it shakes the crap out of the battery. And as it turns out, those cool lithium batteries, they're about this big. there's only this much stuff in them. Like, it looks like the inside of an RC car battery is inside of that big old case, and it shook the crap out of it. And so I had decided, okay, well, we're not going to keep that there. We're going to move it, but there's really nowhere else in this engine compartment to put it. So we're back to where we were before. And our battery is right where it was when we started. Although I would like to say it is wired nicer. I am happier with the way I did it this time, but you know, there's that. Our tilt front end that we got from Dennis Taylor, that head broke during drag week. That side had come loose. So we just rebonded that back together. I don't know, probably the thing I'm most excited about other than having the car run is the fact that it's gonna have a third seat in it. Joe and I are gonna work on that today because David Newburn's going with us. So we're gonna mount a third seat in there, which is cool. We're gonna mount another headset in there so we can all talk to each other. And yeah, we only have 13 days, but I feel like we're gonna be okay. Like, the list of what we have left to do here in the garage is pretty short.
It's a fairly short list.
It really is. It really is. And we don't have to rush through any of it because we don't have a motor.
Yeah.
Once we get the motor, we'll be rushing a little bit. But like I said, we've had the motor out of the car so many times. It's really not a big deal to put it back in one day and get the car running. So
I got to say this, though. Going over our list of everything we had to replace in the engine, we got really lucky last week as far as parts being available.
Last week?
Yeah.
What happened? I don't remember.
Well, we needed all new rocker arms.
Yeah, and they had them.
They had them all in stock. Like, she said, oh, I have this many, I have this many. And when it comes to counting out, she had them all.
She had
plus
them.
Extras.
Yeah, shout out to Indy Cylinder Head. Dino over there had rocker arms, but we had a snowstorm. So they were all, you know, delayed getting here. The clutch was delayed getting here. The blower, everything that we were hoping to have a week ago came this week because of the snowstorm. We were really lucky it wasn't worse than that. We're lucky we're not in California because right now SoCal's on fire.
Yeah.
You know, we could not have a house. You know, we could be homeless right now. So all you people at home, they're always like, why are you just showing up to events unprepared? It's not that I want to, it's just the reality of my situation. And I'm not gonna sit on the couch at home when other people are having fun. I'm gonna go have fun. And it could always be worse. We could be in SoCal right now.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
But not only that, the fact that CP said, yes, we will get you pistons.
I really didn't. I didn't think they would say yes.
I didn't either. Yeah, I was surprised.
Like, CB Pistons, like, it's a massive company, and they have an expedite process. If you pay extra, you can get them quicker, but that's not normally 1 week. Yeah. Like, the fact that they said yes, like, shout out to you guys at home, because it's your audience watching my channel that makes it worth it for a company like CP to go, yes, we'll drop what we're doing and in 1 week get you a set of pistons. Because the truth is, like, you know, if there weren't all of you guys watching this video, it probably wouldn't happen, you know?
Right. This guy. That guy's probably going blind over there.
Yeah. This is
you need some readers yet?
I think I'm getting to that point. I've been clowning on both of you guys for having to put your glasses on, but it's definitely good.
This is all
this is the before of the wiring harness that was in my car. And it was a lot straighter than this, I promise you.
Not by much, though.
But where I made a harness, I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. Right there. That's the after. It's a little straighter, a little smoother, probably more reliable.
Yeah, the way we set it up here is, so Holly Dominator, obviously, and the whole harness is, my design here is to make this independently, you can take it apart. So your out-of-the-box harness, it's wired configured the same way essentially as you would get from right out of the box from Holly, but it is set up that you can take each one of these ports apart, and if you need to service one section, an individual connector on it, it's not all tied together as one gigantic piece. And then to kind of save you guys from yourselves, we put bulkhead connectors, so that if you got to pull the blower off, or like you said, you got to pull the motor out, it's just a quick disconnect, and you don't really have to worry about unhooking all these sensors and all the wires and stuff like that the way it was before.
So essentially now the harness can stay with the motor.
Yeah.
When we pull it, which is nice.
I mean, we won't have to pull it. I mean, God.
No, never again.
We're getting good at this.
We need to cut this to take the motor out. Should not come out of anybody's mouth. You're not cutting anything.
I think we only cut 2 wires, but you had to disconnect like everything from the radiator to the firewall. You had to disconnect all of it and get it out of the motor to take the motor out. Like it was a process for sure. That was the mini trucker in me. I was like, oh, we can just hide the wires here, you know? But hiding the wires here meant they're probably rubbing on something, and why you have a random misfire that you can't ever find at drag week. So
Yeah, there's a lot of practices that are often misunderstood when it comes to wiring and setup, and we found a couple things here and there, some gremlins that, not necessarily like you said, a smoking gun, but hopefully we are ironing out all the kinks in this. But yeah, it should definitely be much better than what was in there.
Well, when Rye's done rewiring all this, he's going to take that bucket and go find the smoking gun.
Newbern didn't touch this, all right?
Or a place to recycle copper.
Yeah, a tweaker could have a good day with that. Sit there with some strippers. About 12 hours later, you'll have $12.
Yeah. All right, what else are we doing?
What else have we done? So, like I said, we didn't just stop working on the car after drag week. We rebuilt the transmission tunnel because it originally had a massive cutout when it had the G-Force GF5R in there, and it had all those shift rods on the side. It had a big hole for that and a cover, so welded all that in. Oh, here's another thing we did.
Sensor for the clutch?
Yeah, so we had basically an on and off switch on the clutch pedal that you could adjust, but not very precisely. And basically the on and off sensor for the clutch pedal tells the ECU when to use the two-step, how much timing to pull for how long, all that. So what we did was, Matt Goins gave me this idea, Matt at Tick Performance. We're using a travel sensor from Rife Sensors that, you know, people use them for all kinds of things, like shock extension, you know. Basically it's a linear actuator looking thing, and it measures and tells you the position of it through voltage. So it'll, from 0 to 5 volts, it'll send a signal to the ECU and go, here's where I'm at based on voltage. And so what you can do is go in the ECU and go, all right, the clutch grabs when it's at 1.3 volts. And if you want to trigger the two-step sooner, well, then you need to tell me to do something at 1.2 volts. Instead of adjusting a physical switch on the pedal, we're now gonna try this, which I'm excited about. So we made a mount off the steering column, we made a mount off the pedal. So there's the upper mount. And then there's our Rife sensor, and it just goes to the pedal. So we did that. What else did we do? We moved our rugged radio mount so that we can access it a little better, and we're also adding a 3rd channel headset to it for whoever rides in the back seat of the car. 1, 2, 3, not it. And the way the weather's looking, it's going to be cold this sick week. It's going to be like 40 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, bring your hoodies. Bring your hoodies, bro.
Then I guess I won't,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I wouldn't mind sitting in the back with the ice chest / air conditioner that we now have for the car.
Well, you want to try it out? Here. Get in there. Yeah, get in there and let me know.
You shall receive.
Well, let's do this. Let's pretend like you're really doing it. You wouldn't get in from this side.
Nope, because this seat don't move.
Yeah, this seat don't move. The
Let's go to
other
the
one,
other side.
the other one flips up.
So you gotta flip the seat forward, stomp on the holly.
Yeah.
Nah, you don't need to. You just flip
Put
the
your
seat
foot
forward.
right on the ECU there.
Yeah, you step here. And don't worry about the wiring that's there either. Ow. That's a knee shot. I think David would fit better back here than me.
You saying he's short?
Ah, no. Actually, it's not bad back here.
That's not bad, right?
No.
You
bad at
won't be
all.
able to put your feet there, unfortunately, because there'll be a seat. But right in between
Yeah.
is the center console. But yeah, your feet could go there. I figure on either side of you, you have room for an ice chest. We can put a cup holder off the roll bars.
We get one of those swingy ones that you put on your bicycle.
Always level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never spills.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
You could go down the track with an open beer back here, and it wouldn't spill.
Not recommended by Finnegan Speed and Marine.
Yeah, we'd never do that.
No, I'm just saying.
We're not Australians.
possibility.
Jesus, come on.
But I was saying we have those cool little cordless air conditioner that we could put in here now, but we won't need it apparently.
What else? You know what the other thing we did? John Sears is going to appreciate this because he kept telling me to do it, is we added tabs right here for our swing out door bars. Well, when you swing them in, they can actually go past this, and John was telling me in a side impact, you could shear the pin and have the bar come in and hit the passenger or the driver. So We TIG welded some stops on here so the bar can't go past it. I think the next thing we're gonna do today is we're going to, sorry?
We've got those. Haven't talked about those yet.
Yeah, I was getting to that part.
Oh, okay.
The next thing we're going to be doing today is we're going to be adding travel limiters to our front suspension to tame the front end down so that the car doesn't go down the track like this. Nose high for sure, but this thing was aggressive. Like, if you looked at some of the videos we posted on it, you know, as it goes through its range of motion, you can watch the tires toe in and out. It's an A-arm suspension, it's unequal length, and depending on how everything's built, that's kind of the nature of the beast. And so at full pop like that, alignment's not ideal. So we're going to limit how far up it goes, which will limit how much weight it transfers to the back of the car, but we're going to use these. And these will get mounted between the frame rail and the A-arm right there. And basically all you do is put the pin in where you want it to stop. If this is max travel, nose really high up in the air, and you don't want it to go that high, well then all you do is pull this pin and put it here. And now it can only go that far. Instead of this coming all the way up to here and allowing the chassis to go super high, you can stop it here or there or there or there. So we'll be installing these today because, again, we're not going to stop working even if we don't have a motor. We'll do everything we can to get ready, and then when we have the motor, no big deal, throw the car together, work on the street tune, hitch the trailer to it, make sure that's happy, and then we'll go to sick week. And everything will work perfect. Because it always does.
Our list is thinning out over there, that's for sure.
My spider sense was tingling.
Uh-oh.
Somebody in the comments was saying, why don't you put chains on the front of it? It'd be cheaper and easier.
You could, but I had these. I've had these for a while, so why not use them?
And the other reason is chains, often seen on drag cars, fold up and turn into, like, they bind up the links, so the chain doesn't go straight every single time. Right. So then you're going to have inconsistencies.
Plus, I don't want it scratching my paint job.
Yeah.
You know.
And then you couldn't have your sweet chain steering wheel.
Yeah, because like once you wipe off the footprints from my Vans, from walking all over the frame, it's a really nice paint job. That was once powder coat. This whole frame was powder coated. And over the years, I've cut it and notched it and welded stuff. And it's really not that nice anymore. But there's sections of it, mostly under the cab. Beautiful. Super shiny.
Are you fighting it this morning, Rye? Big time.
This one pin, when you use these small wires, sometimes the smaller gauges on all your sensors and stuff like that, it's really hard to seat the pins in there. The wire wants to collapse.
Right.
And yeah, it's dead in the middle here. So I'm trying to get this, we want more data, and this is how you hook it all up. So it's like being my Uber driver said, oh, you sound kind of like you're an IT guy for cars, for race cars. And I was like, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Pretty much. I mean, you got to look like this is, let's show the people what you're working off of too that you built.
What's that? Oh yeah, the spreadsheet here. Yep. So it's a, basically what I put together kind of is.
Basically your blueprint.
Yeah, so this is gonna tell me, here's your pin map with Holly. And what the Holly does this is all out of order on the pins. And it's kind of hard to look at and a little confusing. So make a spreadsheet over here, and then I can take this, and this is each wire on the Holly, and then I know exactly where it's gonna go to its destination, the color of the wire, and what its function is over here. And then, you know, we do a functionality check, make sure the wires didn't get broken in the process of putting all this together. And if you do everything correctly on the bench and you spend a little bit of time on the computer up front, then all of this is a lot easier when you go to put it in the car. I think a problem a lot of people, and some people are probably at home watching it, and I was guilty of it too, is you take it out of the box, you throw it in the car, and you're like, let's just get it running and get it going as quick as possible because you're excited.
Nah, people don't do that.
And a lot of this is, we'll worry about all that other cool stuff later, and then later never comes. So we're doing the later now.
This is my spreadsheet.
This is Mike's original blueprint.
Yeah, you want to see the blueprint for the car? There's the sensor, and there's what connector it in, which pins, what color, what function it did. And then as I added things later, it got a little sloppier. And then as I added things later, it got a little better.
Your writing got worse too.
I cleaned, I'm a doctor. Dr. Voltage.
I have way worse handwriting than that.
And there were moments where I really started adding even more stuff. Like I at one point I bought a Fuel Tech gear controller, added it to the car. I added a G meter, but as usual, I never really got around to getting the chance to test anything, and so eventually all the wiring just went off the rails, and never caught on fire for the record, but it's not as good as it could have been, which is why Rye's here.
Was that a poke at 12 volt? Come, Dave.
No, he's not here.
I
Why
thought
would we make fun of him?
Didn't 12 volt Dave get his name because he wasn't good at 12 volt stuff?
No, 12 volt Dave got his name because, well, first it was 5 acre. I named him 5 acre Dave because he was the only guy I knew that had land when I got here. And
This is how he saved him in your phone.
yeah, he was 5 acre Dave. And then later, he just kept getting into vehicles of mine that he hadn't actually worked on, and they caught on fire. Like, I bought a ramp truck, he drove it, and all the wire in the engine compartment started melting. Because this ramp truck, which only had, I don't know, 40,000 miles on it, like, looked unmolested, legit, beautiful, square body. There was no ground wire from the engine to anything.
It's just grounding through the brake lines and the throttle cable and all that stuff.
We put a 4L80 in it. It ground through everything to do with the 4L80 and melted. I bought another ramp truck, a red one. He was driving it home. Same deal. It had a ground cable, but I guess it wasn't connected or something. It started melting stuff. I bought another ramp truck, a green one. He didn't make it out of the dude's driveway when all the wiring melted. And that last green one, at that point, he's like, I'm done. I'm so done. He ended up rewiring in the guy's driveway, went right down the road and got a tattoo that said 12 volt Dave on it. Or it just said 12 volt. And so, yeah, it's not that he sucks at wiring. It's that he gets near anything and it's like spontaneous combustion.
He's the common denominator in all of these.
Oh,
gotcha.
It's his fault. He didn't do it, but it's his fault. Because if you take him out of those cars, or if you take him away from any of those cars, they don't melt.
Well, hopefully
he's kind of like someone else we know. If it gets mentioned,
we do have
it
another
happens.
friend who, if he talks about it, it's going to break. Every damn time.
He does.
And he likes to speak. I don't want to shut him up. But I don't want my stuff on fire either, you know?
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
The carpet goes in before the seat, bro.
It's bolted in. Looks great.
Look at it this way, right? You just pull it over your little toesies, and it'll keep you warm during sick week when it's only 40 degrees out. See?
I mean, David.
It's like a blanket. Are you claiming David's going in the back?
I don't care.
I'll ride in the back. I don't care.
No, it won't be bad.
It's not bad. There's a lot of room back there. You could put a TV back there, fridge. There's a lot of activities could be going on right there.
I'm thinking the phone mount that you didn't like there is going to work great right there for watching movies.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're going to go a long time without stopping. So you have plenty of time to watch movies.
Well, about 100 miles and we stop.
I don't even think you could get through an episode of Family Guy. That's about how often we pull over.
Yeah. All right.
Lunch?
Yeah, lunch. And then I'll redo all this again.
I'll help you.
All right, guys, here's a little tech tip for you. I've marked where I need to put a bolt through and bolt down our rear seat in the car. So instead of just hacking it up with a razor blade, Mike's got this idea where you just heat up a piece of tubing. And once it's heated up, just kind of poke it through. I put a block on the backside to help me. Once it's hot enough, just take it here. We're gonna go done. And we have a hole. See? Voila.
What do you think, Bo? Rocco, what do you think? You don't think at all, do you?
If it's blinking when I talk, it means it's on.
It does. Oh, there we go. Did you try it out?
Not yet.
Gotta put the
Oh,
padding
look,
in.
the carpet's underneath it.
Your do-over went really well.
Yeah, your little tip works really good.
So the other thing we're going to do now is we're going to limit the amount of front suspension travel we have in an effort to stop this thing from wheeling while applying as much power as we possibly can without having wheelie bars in the back. And what we're going to use is this piece that I got from RK Racecraft. It's basically 2 aluminum tubes that have a slot in them and a bunch of holes. And you can pull this pin and you can change how far this will extend. And what we're going to do is mount this in between the coilover and the A-arm. It's going to mount here and here. And as we leave the starting line and the chassis rises and the A-arms go down and the wheels go down, this will move with it, but it'll hit this pin and stop at a predetermined point. Right now we have I think a 7-inch stroke coilover mounted on an A-arm, which yields something like 8.5 inches of wheel travel, which is a ton. And so the car leaves the line like this, the front end stays like this all the way down the track, way higher than it needs to be, and it's probably not the most efficient thing we could be doing. So this is going to go bank and stop it before it goes all the way up to the top of its travel. So we're going to do that. Then we're also going to relocate our bump stop, which if you look is not currently contacting the control arm, and yet if you look up here, our coilover is completely bottomed out. It's at this point that the cross member hits the ground when you come down from a wheelie. So we're going to move the bump stop out, put it in a different place on the control arm, make a new mount, and give ourselves probably 3/4 to 1 inch of gap here, so we're no longer bottoming out our coilover. Then we're going to install this to limit the amount of up travel, and I think the car will be happier in general. Might not wheelie as much, might be a little more efficient when it leaves the line, and if not, well, it'll look really cool. All right. Ooh, let's show the people. Let's show the people what I'm talking about. So imagine the car just landed from a wheelie. That cross member just hit the ground, right? You get back on the gas. This is how much travel the front end of this car has. Still going. Control arms are now level. We're still going. I think this car would probably hook on a gravel road. That's how much travel this thing has. That's why wheelies don't even look that impressive anymore, because the wheels don't come that far off the ground. All right, we just now finally are in the air. If I remember right, we have somewhere around 8.5 inches of wheel travel, which is a ton. So we're gonna change that just a little bit. I like the wheel travel, but you can see what happens when you have that much wheel travel and the wheels go from straight up to towed out, like both of them. It looks a little weird and probably is not the best way we could be driving this thing. All right, so first things first, figure out where this is gonna go, which in this case, it needs to get close to the control arm, but obviously not hit it to get away from the coil spring on the coilover. And the further inboard I go to the pivot point, the less this will travel up and down. Like if I mount this way out here, the closer to the wheel, this moves in a greater arc than if I move it inboard here, closer to the pivot point. Well, this thing does not have the same stroke as the coilover, it has less. So mounting it out here means this thing's gonna stop way before I want the control arm to stop. So I'm gonna mount it right there because that's a good thick plate and a good place to put it. And then I'm gonna mount the tab, not here because it's too close to the coil spring, I'm gonna mount it here, which will give me probably about 5/8 of an inch to the control arm. Yeah. So I'll knock the paint off here, knock the paint off there, and we're good to go. I didn't want to take any material off of it. Okay, that is in there. Can't get the pin out. Wheels off the ground. Let's measure the shock shaft. So from the O-ring to the body of the shock is about 5 inches. Maybe the other side is different. Let's see. O-ring to the body of the shock is 4 1/8. Can you jack it up some more?
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, we're not off yet. Keep going.
That side's off the ground.
Keep going. Keep going. Still going.
I think we're off. Move that block out of the way.
Nope, still going.
Roll forward on the block.
You gotta keep jacking it. It's still on it. There we go. Okay. Okay, so on this side, 5 and just about 3/4 of an inch of down travel or droop. On this side, 5 inches. So we've effectively limited the suspension from topping out by 1 inch here. So that wheel will drop 5 3/4. In terms of shock stroke, this will drop 5 inches.
Do we?
And we can change that. If we don't want it to, if we want to eliminate even more, we just move this down, and then that further reduces the amount of downward wheel travel or upward chassis movement we have.
Well, you were talking about slotting that longer. Do you want to do that?
Well, so
Do we need to?
let's put it down now and see. This is set up where this should bottom out 1 inch of, with 1 inch of shock travel left. In compression, this thing should bottom out, but we don't want this to be what stops this thing from. So we need to put a bump stop here, or on the shock shaft, or both, something to stop the wheel from coming up and the chassis from coming down and smashing this pin, because this is just an aluminum tube.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, it's fine for, hey, let's stop down travel, but having this thing hit the ground, you don't want this to be what bottoms out. So, but yeah, let's go down with it now. Five inches, and this side was, what was this side again before you go down? So
5 3/4.
yeah, about 5 3/4, and I think that's all of it. Let me try to push down on it. Yep. Okay. So we've taken 1 inch of travel out of it, basically, 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So now let's go down. You can see the pin traveling up the slot. And right now,
You want to stop it right about there?
yeah, we don't want the pin to be what stops this. And right now it's not. See how it still moves? So right here is where we need to either put a real good bump stop in there or build one off the chassis that goes across the control arm.
I think maybe both.
Yeah. That way this isn't what's stopping it. Yeah, I thought we might have to elongate this slot, but I don't know. I don't think we do.
So.
I think it works just fine. Sweet. All right, we got to repeat this on the other side and build bump stop mounts. Then it's done. So this gets cut with that, and then TIG welded into this. Bump stop, yeah buddy. All right, there you go, chat. One bump stop mount. There's our nut welded inside of it. 3/16 plate going to 1/8 inch 2x3 rectangular tubing. And this here will go right about there. And all we got to do is mount a crossbar on the control arm with a plate that will contact that bump stop. Roll that to the cross member and she's dialed. Ignore the boot. That'll buff out, don't worry. Here's a little tip for you guys. Not that everybody's doing this at home or this exact same thing, but a great way to mock up a bump stop that's above an A-arm and to figure out the distance that you need to span for whatever tubing or plate or whatever you're going to use to go on top of the control arm for where the bump stop's got to mount is to just set your ruler across it, because now not only is it telling you how far across, but also it's giving you a place for your bump stop to sit. It's not fish mouth, but it's angle cut. It's in the general length of what we need. So let's go test fit. All right. So, see the silver mark? That's where it needs to end up. So, the more I shorten it, the further out I can move it, and we'll end up where we need to be with some creative trimming. The one thing you don't want to do is cut it too short to begin with, and then it just falls through, and then you got to build another one. So we're going to sneak up on it. We're now going to fish mouth each end of this at the same time, the same angle, until it slides all the way up to this point right here. Now, if I take this piece of tubing and I've cut it and I just put it up against the A-arm like that, you'll see there's a huge gap. See the big gap right there? I need to get rid of that. The way I need to get rid of that is to put this shape on this tube. There's several ways you could do that. You can take a hole saw and put a hole saw right through the side of the tube, kind of about 1/3 of the way. That'll put what's called a fish mouth in there. You can do it by hand with a grinder. You can take a flap disc. I do that all the time. It works really well. Or you can use something like this. This is a tool from a company called Ameribraid. I don't know what to call it because it does so many things. Like right now, I'm going to use it as an abrasive tubing notcher. I'm going to put a fish mouth in here using this belt, but it's a belt sander, it's a parts finisher, it's ridiculously adjustable. Like this table that I put the part on can go up, down, in, out, and change angles. The head of this thing, right now you see the belts going vertically. I can flip this thing sideways, put it like that, and finish edges of parts on there. I can straighten the edge of a part on it. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, this drum here, I can change. I can quickly and easily, by just loosening tension on the belt, slide the belt off right here. And then I can change the drum out quickly and easily. I can go smaller, I can go bigger. No matter what diameter tube I'm using on my projects in here, I can match the drum to it and put the right fish mouth in there, which is sweet. So this is for 1 5/8" tubing. This is, I believe, for 3/4 inch tubing. This is for 1 inch. And our control arm is actually made of 1 1/8" tubing. Let me move this real quick. And 1 1/8" is the one size I don't have. So I grabbed a 1-inch because it's the closest thing I could get to it. There, when you move the table out of the way, it's quick and easy, just like that. Now I'm gonna put the table back up in there. I'm gonna make sure that I'm notching it in the center of the tube. Why don't you come over here, Joe, and get some close-ups of this for the people at home. So I'm gonna put the tube right there. I'm just gonna tighten this knob here. And now, when I turn it on, I can go forward, backwards, I can adjust the speed. We're just gonna go forward right now. I can adjust where the belt's riding with this knob. So watch, I'm gonna send the belt this way. See how it's moving over closer? Turn this knob, I can send the belt back this way. All right, right in the middle, we're good to go. Turn it up a little bit. I have the center line of my tube marked as a reference point. And now we're just gonna put this on here, and we're gonna put a fish mouth in here. See that? Look how quickly that's already going into that. We haven't gone completely deep, but now watch how much better it fits. See how much smaller the gap is getting? You see how that fits right there? The further I go in with the fish mouth, the closer that gap will close up. There we go. We're getting better. Look at that. All right, now I'm going to do the other side of it. Okay.
Getting warm?
Now we'll go test fit it. This shouldn't be perfect, but we're sneaking up on this deal here, right? We don't want to go too far. So I've marked my control arm. See the silver Sharpie right there and right there? And so that's warm. This thing should start to get close to where we're going. The more I notch it, the closer it'll get.
Your Sharpie's your center line?
Yeah, so see the center line of this needs to get to the center line of that. That puts it directly under our bump stop. So as I keep cutting and fish mouthing this, this is gonna move out. So we got about another inch to go, which means I probably won't fish mouth this next one. I'll probably cut it straight and then go fish mouth it again, and that'll get us close. But that's just one way to do this. Like I said, you can literally do what I did with a flap disc. You can cut a V with a flap disc and then finish it and have the same effect. It might not be as fast or efficient, but it does the same thing. Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
Oh, that machine works quick.
Yes. Yes, it does. Okay. There we go. Nailed it. All right, everybody. This is a tube sander. It's from 525 Industries, American-made company. You can see the flag. That's how you know. This thing's great. If you want to remove coating, paint, whatever, off of round tubes and you don't want tiger stripes like that, that's a tiger stripe. That's what you get when you use a flap disc or something round to remove stuff. If you don't want that, then use this or something like it. I'll put a link in the description to this tool and everything else we use in this video. No, they didn't pay me to say this. This thing's just great. So watch how that turns into something way more pleasing after I use this. Whoops. This might be a two-man job. Anyway, people at home, see how it's not tiger striped anymore? Yeah, we'll straighten it out when we weld it in because the front is a little further back. Basically, it's gonna go like that. That'll look good. I just need to weld a plate on top of this. So that's the next thing I need to do is mark that tube so I know where to make the plate. All right, what did you need help with?
Taking the hood off.
Why's the hood gotta come off?
Oh, because one bolt broke on the back.
Oh, we got a blinker too. Our flashlight's dying. Joe's having a great day. Flashlight's dying. Broken bolt in the hood.
Oh man, that looks pretty good.
What's that?
I'm just talking to myself. Just doing a little motivational speaking. That's welded all the way around. I'm gonna weld that little seam there just a little bit on each side, and then we'll put our triangle gussets there, and then the arm is done.
It kind of takes it, gives it support in here. You know what I mean?
You grounded?
Nope. I would have been.
JC, the human ground. Dun, 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 dun. You can cool it off, paint it, put it back in the car.
Passenger side control arm is done. And I gotta say, yeah, I am patting myself on the back here. That is some of my finest work. I had a really good couple of days of welding here. And it's bench welding, so, you know, way easier than welding stuff on the car. But for me, I'm saying hell yeah. That came out pretty good. I don't think this is gonna bend. I think the gusset plates on the bottom really helped. For those that are wondering, they're 1-inch diameter control arms, or 1 1/8, something like that. 3/16 plate, 3/16 plate, 3/16 plate on the bump stop. I feel like we're gonna be all right here. Right now, Joe is putting the driver's side back together. Then we'll put the passenger side back together. Cycle the suspension without the coil springs in. Once we're satisfied everything clears and is good, then we'll put the coil springs back in and call it good. All right, so that took a couple of days. Rye came in, worked on the wiring harness while Joe and I fabricated a bunch of stuff for the front end of the car and worked on the G-Wagon, which I think is pretty much ready to test drive. Let's go over the front end of Blasphemi. I put photos and some videos stuff, I think, on Instagram and Facebook and here on the community tab on YouTube, kind of showing people what we were doing, but not fully explaining all of it because it wasn't done. And a lot of people had some questions and actually pretty good suggestions for this deal. A lot of people were saying, why don't you use hydraulic off-road bump stops? I don't know. I don't have a great reason. Packaging might be a problem because they're kind of tall. The other thing people are asking is, what about the bump stops in the shock? You know, couldn't you use those? Well, these Viking coilovers do not have an internal bump stop for compression or for extension. So when we slam the cross member into the racing surface, we're bottoming out the shock right about the same time. And so that's no good. A lot of people asked, well, how would I adjust that? Well, all you do is screw in a thicker bump stop, a taller one, a shorter one, whatever you want to do. So I feel good about this. I did have some concern about the crossbar we welded in the A-arm bending, and my original design for it was to go up and down from one side of the arm to the other, and I felt that that bend would add some strength there. The problem was we were out of tubing. It didn't have enough to make the bend. All we could do was 2 straight pieces. But what I did do was gusset the bottom of the triangle area where the crossbar intersects with the A-arm on both sides with some 3/16 plate, and that plate extends real close to the center of that bar. Not ideal, but I think it'll work. More importantly, does this thing now cycle with our travel limiters without overextending the travel limiter? We set it up where the bump stop should contact the chassis of the A-arm about 1 inch before we run out of shock travel at full compression, and it should allow everything to extend the travel limiters by taking about 3/4 of an inch off of our full range of motion with, you know, when everything droops out. So we'll go to the bottom first. Let's see what happens here. All right, so let's go down.
We are on the bump stop.
Yeah, and I could see it slow down right at the end as it compressed the polyurethane bump stop. And if you look right there. There it is. It is working. And it's working well before this bottoms out. Let's measure how much it compressed it, because we set it up with 1 inch of gap there. Let us see how much we actually dropped it. So we measured it from the bottom of the nut on the shaft to the top of the body, and it originally was 1 inch, and it is now down to about 5/8, 3/4. The only way to make sure our cross member isn't going to hit the ground when this thing bottoms out is to take the jack out from under it, take the race straps off from under it, and then pick it up with a hoist or a forklift and put it down. But I'm pretty sure this will do it. And the real test will come a week from now, because it is Friday. Sick week starts on the 27th, which is 9 days from now. I believe our new CP pistons are showing up any moment now at Harrell Engine and Dyno, and that Hemi's getting slammed back together with much better parts. I know everybody at home, well, at least a lot of you, are always like, why are you still playing with this Hemi? And the truth is, when it breaks, it's usually something new. It's not like we're just repeating the same mistakes over and over again. This last go-round, pretty sure it was just parts failures, you know, rocker arm adjusters that kept breaking. And so we replaced all the stock Indy cylinder head rocker arm adjusters with ones from Manton push rods out in Lake Elsinore, California, which I believe are a better material according to Pete. And so if we can keep the adjusters from breaking, I mean, that Hemi's been pretty good. We already finished 1 drag and drive with it this summer, and we were well on our way to finishing drag week when it finally expired. So yeah, I don't know. I feel good about our chances of sick week. We only need like 1 day to put the car back together. And then ideally we'll get to sick week on time, if not a smidge early, because sick week starts on a Monday, the 27th of January. They have test and tune Saturday and Sunday. And Monday is registration day, which is also a test and tune day. So there are 3 opportunities for us to test out our refreshed clutch, our Hemi that has new pistons, new valves, new rocker arms, a reground camshaft, a lot of changes with that thing, and a fresh set of slugs. So I don't know, I feel good about our chances. It only takes like a day to put this car back together. I feel like we can get it running and road test it around here before leaving for South Georgia Motorsports Park and the beginning of sick week. And once again, we are filming a movie with Joe and myself and David Newbern. Got a 3rd seat in the car, as you guys have seen. We're gonna make another movie. Won't come out anytime soon because it takes time to edit that much footage, but we're bringing the crew and we're gonna have a damn good time. We're gonna take you with us. Thanks for watching.